So we're Tymeware. My name is Arnar Larsen, co-founder of Tyme, and so I would have been a sixth-generation doctor. My great-great-great-great-grandfather practiced medicine in rural Iceland. The technology he had at his disposal was practically, the stuff that grew out of the ground. That was pretty much the extent of it. Some rope and the insight that he had by just observing the person. My mother is a neurosurgeon. She can scan someone's brain with MRI technology. She can exactly position where she's going to place her probe or how she's going to drill into someone's skull safely so that they can walk out the next day. In about a 100-year span, that is an amazing improvement. And it's all happening because we're creating better technology that can understand the human, get access to data about us as people, as what's going on in our physiology and our anatomy. And those tools is what driving how we're actually making those medical decisions, diagnoses, and how we're able to live longer, healthier, for the most part. And here's where we see the problem. All of these technologies are limited to the medical centers. The clinicians are the only ones that have access to this stuff. And so we wanted to think about how could we actually make it so that it's not just the medical centers, that same data driven by insight and algorithms that can actually deliver meaningful, actionable feedback so that we can start to make decisions even before we end up on my mother's operating table so that we can avoid it. How can we actually start to create that future? And a big piece of that future is creating the technologies that we can incorporate into our daily lives, that are living in the background, that are almost invisible to us, but are prompting us and are giving us useful information so that we can make the decisions that will hopefully guide us to a healthy, happy life. And so we started to address the problem by understanding how can we make it so that it's ubiquitous in someone's life. Something that is extremely wearable, something that is going to be comfortable to wear, something that's going to be consumer accessible so it's not super expensive. And this is our first try at addressing this problem. And we're at the very cusp of being able to manufacture these things at a consumer price point that is going to be very well within reach and is going to give as accurate as data of many medical, or many millions dollars worth of medical equipment can. And so this is the product. We have seamlessly embedded sensors in the fabric. I'm actually wearing one right now. And so you can kind of see how you can barely see the sensors. The sensors communicate to an electronics pod, so you can see it in the middle here. And that stores the traditional electronics, where we have algorithms, wireless communication, but more importantly, we also have what's called haptic feedback. So we can start to create a completely isolated experience where you don't have to be interfacing with your phone, for example. You can be going out for a run and getting feedback in real time based on how to optimally train, or whether you're someone with COPD, how do you actually start to do certain exercises and know that you're doing them correctly so that you can course correct and prevent some of the episodes that you might see in your future. And then we communicate, obviously, like most other technologies, connected devices, we communicate to your phone, where you can see various data analytics, you can access coaching services, some of the more traditional stuff that you come to expect from an IoT-driven device. And, okay, so we've run a lot of user tests. So we're not on the market yet, but we're collecting a lot of data and understanding where can we apply this data and the resources that we can deploy through the garment so that you can actually get meaningful health benefits. We ran a study on yoga practitioners because it seemed like a lot of yoga practitioners, they ended up having really healthy metrics, and they seemed to be very calm and not so stressed as so many people in our world are today. And what we saw was actually phenomenal. That there's a thing called the relaxation response, which actually taps into your body's natural relaxation mechanism, and it's triggered one way through slow breathing. And what we saw with yoga practitioners is that they were actually able to, when they were about 5 years into their regular practice, they were regularly able to tap into this for at least 15 minutes, sometimes even 45 minutes during their yoga practice. And that can mean the difference of like 10 points on your blood pressure when you get into high blood pressure situations. And so what we saw was the difference between the breathing of someone that was inexperienced, someone that's only been doing it for about 2 years, to someone that's been doing it for about 5 or above. And the fundamental difference in how they were able to use their body was somehow different. And so we wanted to explore that and understand how we could actually create a product that could illuminate this and then actually create a path where you could start to implement this faster and into your regular life. Okay, and then the next one, yeah, just the next one. And so this is the running. So ventilation is something that is going to be determining your metabolic rate. And so we did a test with anaerobic threshold and VO2 max testing, where we were actually able to show that our product or our sensors were as accurate as wearing a face mask and being and measuring your actual output air just by wearing the garment. And so even at full tilt, our accuracy was about ±1 breath. And we were actually accurately able to identify what's called the anaerobic threshold. So that's where your body switches from the fat burning to sugar burning. And so for endurance athletes, which is one of our main applications, that's a very important thing to know. And so then we'll do demo.
Need to move the question.
Yeah, we'll just do a demo real quick.
All right. Yes, and the question was where?
Yeah, so any questions while we're setting up the demo? Yeah.
Where is all the data being stored?
So it's being stored on Garmin, and then it's also communicating with your phone. Some of it's being stored there, but then we also have a cloud service where everything is being stored.
Like Amazon's
Yep, exactly.
EMR?
It's not a health related yet. Yeah,
Amazon EMR?
it's Amazon Web Services. I'm sorry? Exactly. The sensor is the Garmin. Yeah. That's the sensor. That is the Garmin. Your clothing is what's detecting it. And then, because people expect you to be able to visualize these things, and due to some other limitations of technology, we also send all that information to the phone. But our vision for the future is really that your clothing and the things around you is what's going to be curating your life much more than a brick in your phone, in your pocket. Yeah.
Is it for the washing machine washable?
Yeah. That was one of the first things that we really had to figure out. And yeah, you just throw it in the wash and it gets clean.
And the sensor still maintains the sensor, right?
Yes. Yeah. So.
Guys, let's have a quick demo and then wrap up.
Okay. So here you can see the live data from the Garmin.
You want to do some jumping jacks?
So it's measuring my body's movements as I move through space, and those are the accelerometer and gyroscope data that you see there. That can be translated into steps like your normal Fitbit, but it can also do more complicated things like posture, as well as it can do more complicated things like posture and starting to understand your body's dynamics and whether you are, for example, more prone to then starting to crouch on the place of getting an injury if you're going for a run. So understanding your landing dynamics and things like that. So it can do very simple things and it can go to very complicated things. And then the breathing is really crucial in terms of understanding your physiological state, so your metabolic state, but then also like in the yoga instance, starting to understand some of these sort of like impacts on your cardiovascular system and how you can actually start to create your own input into your body and have a positive effect on it. Yeah.
Price of the garments?
So we're targeting, like I said, we're not selling yet, but we are targeting a price point between 100 and 150 bucks.
All right, guys. Thank you.